Hello listeners, Mark here with an unexpected SLP short, but the news about the Wigan salary cap breach and points deduction was just too big for us to ignore this midweek. We didn't want to dominate the next episode of the show where we want to celebrate the first round of Super League with this bad news, so we have recorded a special episode for you. We have Phil Wilkinson on the phone from the Wigan Observer and Wigan Today website, who will be giving us kind of a recap of what's happened, what the club have said, and his take on it as someone who's obviously been living and breathing this news throughout the day today as we record on Wednesday the 30th of January. We'll then get Tim Griffiths, one of our normal co-hosts, on to run through your views with me, to try and offer maybe some balance between the extremes of you lot with your hot takes and the extremes of me with my Wigan bias. So without further ado, let's get to Phil first and then me and Tim. So Phil, thanks for joining us on Super League Pod for this hastily arranged SLP short about the Wigan Warriors salary cap breach and points deduction. You've probably been a very, very busy man today, so we appreciate your time on this one.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Anytime. You're right. I'd love to be talking about, Luke Thompson against Ben Flower or Gildard against Percival and Lachlan Coote against Zach Hardacre, but I guess we've got a more pressing issue to discuss.
Unfortunately so. So we've got you on because you're obviously the reporter who gets all this information in. You're going to be the man who'll be able to sort out the facts from the opinions in a little bit of a way. So can you talk us through what's actually happened with the salary cap breach and the points deduction?
Yeah, I mean, there was Look, the tribunal was last Thursday. Parties were informed last Friday. It's obviously come out today, the day before the launch of the Super League season. Obviously, the Super League's peeled away from the RFL in terms of the Super League's not under the RFL ownership, but the RFL is still responsible for certain issues. One of them is policing the salary cap. Although I've got to point out, some people are suggesting the RFL have put the boot in with this punishment. It is an independent tribunal. It's appointed, it was a judge, it's two ex-players. They made this ruling last week. Now, why it's been delayed until now, that's my issue, to be quite honest, not the actual... Wigan have admitted the breach. It was in 2017. They've gone over 14.5 grand. It was 6 separate payments to agents, fees. So there's no suggestion of cheating. This isn't like, I think the last case was Salford when they were making payments underhand, and there's nothing like that. There's no suggestion at all of that. It's just bad accounting, really, administrative error. I think Wigan's finance team changed around this time, and this has been overlooked somewhere along the lines.
So it was in 2017 was the breach.
It was 2017, middle of 2017 when Wigan were having their injury problems, and they were getting all of these legally. They were getting the dispensations on the salary cap to be able to play different players because so many players were out, and in all of that activity, these payments to agents got overlooked. There's no suggestion that it was for to get a competitive gain on anything. I think Wigan lost a record Super League number of games during this stretch. They finished outside the playoffs at the end of that year. So it wasn't about that. It was just somebody's messed up along the way. And listen, I'm not suggesting. For me, it doesn't. You've still got to police that. If somebody messes up, they should still be punished. The question, of course, is whether this punishment, the timing of this issue for me, firstly, and then secondly, is whether this punishment whether the punishment fits for crime.
So explain what the punishment exactly is.
Well, it's a £5,000 fine, of which half is suspended, and a 2 points penalty deduction starting immediately. And it baffles me, it really does, that it's a £2.5 grand fine. I've seen players get fined back for high tackles. It's a £2.5 grand fine. If what they've done is so bad, why is it only a £2.5 grand fine? You look at the previous salary cap breaches, and the fines have been in the 5 figures and the 6 figures. And this just, if it warrants a 2 point deduction, I just don't understand the £2,500 fine. And I must point out that this, while it is an independent tribunal who makes this judgment, made it last week, It's the RFL ultimately who have the decision on when it's announced, and they've decided to put it out today. This tribunal, it isn't open. It isn't like an inquest or a court hearing where journalists can go along and sit in. This isn't like the Zach Hardacre drive case where journalists were allowed and get all the details. We don't get that. It's not even like a UCAB hearing where we get the detailed breakdown of the minutes and kind of can go through it that way.
Yeah, we all read the report, didn't we, Zach Hardacre, but we can't read the report on this. We don't know if...
There may well be reasons. They may have taken into account Wigan's historic previous breaches.
Yes,
The last one was 2007. For me, that would be a little unfair because it was different administration. You know, I mean, Ian Lenigan didn't take over the club until 2 years later. You know, to hammer, you know, they've been squeaky clean. They've not had any issues since then. So I think it would be a little unfair to kind of punish them if that is what it is. If that's why they've clamped down so severe on the points deduction. But Wigan have said they're going to appeal the hearing. We don't know when that will be. Wigan want it as soon as possible. Now, then I think from what I'm led to believe, there's two routes here. They can either go appeal with a tribunal which has made this ruling, or you go to like a separate, a separate independent. I don't know if ombudsman's the right word, but like an adjudicator, you know, like a Sporting Solutions, and go down that route and let them decide, and then whatever they decide, you know, you're compelled to go with the judgment. But I think either way, look, the appeal's not going to be in the next 24 hours, so either way, we can start the season tomorrow on -2 points, and of course, it just overshadows the build-up to this, you know, the new beginnings, this exciting Super League era, which even the most cynical people have felt that there seems to have been a vibrancy to the start of this Super League. And I don't know if it's completely removed that altogether. But, you know, I think people will still be excited to watch Wigan Saints tomorrow, but it certainly put a dark cloud over that game at the Totally Wicked Stadium.
So the club, like you say, are going to appeal. The club have come out and given an explanation as to why the issues happened. Do we know partly what that explanation was, and also why it's taken so long to come to light? The charge was first brought just before Christmas.
Yeah, so I think it came to light last November, and it was investigated then. The tribunal was last Thursday. I've no idea why it took so long to, why it got flagged up then. You know, that's another issue, maybe for later down the line to ask about. I thought we had a live salary cap, and so. I want to know, get to the bottom of that and find out why, if there's a live salary cap, if they're kind of doing retrospective, looking into the accounts. But look, I'm not suggesting there's anything underhand there or anything wrong with that. I'm just for my own curiosity, I guess.
You put up a piece that you explain sort of how this compared to some of the other offences, and you know, we've already borne in mind that Wigan have had previous, although under a different regime and a long time ago. But how does this compare to other?
They have been the worst offenders, I think. If you know, historically, Wigan in the Super League era and the salary cap era. And listen, if you're going to have a salary cap, I mean, that's an argument for another day. You've got to police it. You've got to. Yeah. There's no point having it if nobody's going to police it. So I'm all for that. But if you do look at the past crimes, it just doesn't measure up to this one. I mean, as I said before, there's no suggestion, I don't think, of any cheating. It's 14 grand over, 6 payments to agents, which were overlooked. You know, you look at some previous ones. Wigan were docked 4 points, but that was for going over 200 and nearly £250,000 to stave off relegation. If you remember the whole,
very well.
Fielding era. Yeah, that was awful. I mean, St Helens broke the cap by the same percentage as Wigan. I think it's like 0.8%.
Yeah,
they didn't get a points deduction. They got a hefty fine. But they didn't get a points deduction. I think if you were to speak to Ian Lenigan, Chris Rudlinski, they'd say, listen, we apologise, our hands are up, we admit this error, but in the past it's always been a fine. A points deduction is a points deduction it is like almost like the last straw. You know, a club going into administration or deducting the points from cheating on the pitch, you know, fielding ineligible players or extra men and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't. It just, for me, seems a little unfair on Adrian Lamb, the new squad of players, and the fans, that they're being punished for an administrative error from 2 years ago, when really, if you're going to punish them, I just don't know why they've not hit them in the pocket.
Yeah, interesting that. I mean, you've kind of thrown in your views on it along the way, which is really good because you've got a great insight on the club. But where this story isn't over, is it? It's going to run. Where can people find out about this and also the other stories that are hopefully more positive stories on the field? Where can they read your stuff to get more detail on this?
Oh, listen, we're posting plenty of build-up on the Wigan Today site. There's supplements in tomorrow's Wigan Post. But listen, I know for a fact that tonight there was media interviews scheduled, live media interviews on TV were scheduled, and tomorrow at Media City. They've been scrapped now because we know the questions would have been about this. So some people were saying, oh, any publicity is good publicity for the game. There are 2 national newspapers that I know of, had nice, good previews planned, had space in the paper. They've been scrapped to make way for stories about this salary cap breach. So isn't the timing of this, it absolutely stinks. I can't believe, I don't get, as we're told Friday, it was announced today, a day before the Super League launched. And given the backdrop that Super League's obviously peeled away from the RFL, you don't have to be too cynical to wonder whether that, to ask the question whether that timing was deliberate. It wasn't done the day before because I'm guessing they know it would have detracted from that World Cup venues announcement, And I got to tell you that a lot of people in Wigan, a lot of fans in Wigan, were already thinking and already asking whether the fact that Wigan was snubbed with those World Cup venues, whether the fact, obviously the rebellion was the Super League rebellion, sounds a bit like Star Wars. The Super League,
the conspiracy theorists are out.
If not spearheaded, certainly sparked by Ian Lenigan, and whether the fact that Wigan were overlooked, whether that was in part, if nothing else, to do with the fact that the RFL basically just getting payback, just putting a boot into them, saying, this is our revenge almost. Those people who were asking the questions, this is certainly fuel those conspiracy theories. The fact that this has come out now, just a day before the start of the new Super League season.
Yeah, the timing is under question. The amount of the punishment is being appealed, but thank you.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say on that point, actually, I think Wigan probably would have wanted it not to come out until the appeal is at least heard or the appeal was set. But the RFL made the point they wanted it out. They wanted it out before the start of the season, which I understand why.
Yeah.
I'm just on about why specifically the day before the Super League season. It just seems a little curious to me, at the very least.
Well, thank you very much for your time and your views on that, Phil. It's really appreciated, and I'm sure everyone will be on the Wigan Today website. You've had more hits for this story than you've had for any others in the build-up to the season. Shocking.
Silver lining.
Well, at least we're keeping you in a job still, Phil, and thanks for your time tonight.
Not a problem. Cheers, bud.
So we've heard from Phil about what the news is, what the Wigan club have replied to, and his response from getting this news today and dealing with it all through the day. He's been very busy dealing with that and comments about his stories on Twitter. We're now going to move on to all of your views. We had a few in today. It's my phone's been buzzing a lot this afternoon, Tim, and
I bet it has, yeah.
And we've also had a few bits and pieces in from you guys, the listeners. So let's get to some of those. Tim, I'll read them out because we haven't had a chance to do a proper rundown prep and share that detail beforehand. I'll read these out, and then you'll give your non-biased opinion, and I'll give my biased opinion.
Your cherry and white tinted spectacles.
Yeah. So the first one, which is from Tom Andrews. He says, just as I regained consciousness from laughing at Connor getting banned, this little nugget of news came out. Someone try and wake me up before Friday night, please. So that's just Tom being Tom with his comedy. Wakey White says, torn on this one, disappointed it's a negative story in the midst of such a positive build-up to the new season, but also glad that cheating is detected and punished. So what's your take on that?
Well, I'm still torn because I had a read of this at first. My first reaction was, oh, yeah, Wigan cheating again. What a surprise. Then my reaction was, well, is this a cock-up or is it conspiracy? If you think it's a conspiracy and they're deliberately cheating, then actually probably the punishment's quite light if it's genuine cheating. If, as I'm tended to, you think it's just a cock-up in the accounting and genuinely not realising that certain things should be counted under one bucket rather than another, then it's probably all right. to be honest. It's just, they've got a fine, they've got